From this process, our recommendation was WastePro of Georgia, with weekly household garbage service, monthly bulk waste, animal removal, the option of additional containers, and also for yard debris. The estimated cost per household is $18.77 per month. Next slide, please. As you noted, I'm sure that recycling was not included in there. We are currently looking for a cost-effective option for curbside, or actually, we're looking at different options for recycling in general, not just curbside. And our short-term option is to improve options for recycling at Merck Miles and potentially other locations within the city. And then long-term, one of the best things about the City of South Fulton is we have a lot of companies involved in recycling. And our goal and ambition is to bring them into the fold and assist us into creating some partnerships to do some additional recycling inside the city limits. Next slide, please. Next steps, approval of vendor and implementation timeline. Reflect changes in our city's solid waste ordinance. We got some updating to do. Negotiate the billing process and develop or continue to develop recycling options for our citizens to utilize. Got one more slide. One of the questions that came up was branding opportunities. The vendor has given us an opportunity to not only brand the bin, as you see in the picture here, but also they will have dedicated equipment to the City of South Fulton, and we'll be able to brand that as part of our relationship with this vendor. That's the end of my presentation.
Mr. Clerk, you want to sound the next item? I'm sorry. We're going to take questions from council now?
Yeah, the next item is questions from City Council.
Thank you. I'm just going to do a show of hands right now, unless we can get this queue up here. I saw your hand, Dr. Rao.
Thank you. WastePro, do they have any partnerships? Are they the sole provider, or do they have any subs with them? How is that structured?
To my knowledge, they have reached out to most of the existing providers in the City of South Fulton. I can definitely confirm that they have at least one sub that is currently working in the city, and they're looking to do some additional partnerships.
And you may have not gotten to this, because I saw you said something about negotiations. Is it the thought that they'll be covering the city or sections in the city on a certain day, or are they going to try to do it all in one using multiple trucks, or have y'all got to that level of detail?
Yes. So the plan is to assign 14 vehicles to the City of South Fulton. And again, they'll be dedicated to the city. So that's how we'll be able to do the branding with them. Mm-hmm. They will operate on a 5-day work schedule. And they will serve the entire city in those 5 days.
Okay, so depending on what section, it might be Monday, and another section might be Tuesday. Okay.
Yes.
A rolling kind of schedule.
But one of the things that we made sure to emphasize to them is that, within a subdivision, we want to make sure that every household is serviced on the same day, so that everybody in that neighborhood is taken care of, and everybody knows that those cans should be taken back after that service day as well.
And one last question: when do you anticipate rolling this out? And I understand all the terms, may not be worked out with the vendor, but
there are a number of factors that we're dealing with. One of them is equipment. and just working specifically on the negotiations of the actual agreement itself. Do we want to, well, I should say it should happen before second quarter of 2023
Okay,
is what we're currently shooting for.
okay. No additional questions.
Thank you. Councilwoman Willis?
Thank you for your presentation. The sanitation, inconsistencies with pricing and service has been plaguing this community for a very long time. And so I am glad that we are moving in a direction to take it over as a city. And we were moving in that direction to take it over. Unincorporated South Fulton, the county was moving in that same direction before we became a city. They were actually about to roll it out. My question to you, one, is can you speak a little bit about the backdoor services? Because we know that our seniors, some of them have backdoor service, the ones that are incapable of taking the receptacles to the curb. And so will that process remain?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, that's a necessary service. There will be an application that will, be signed by a doctor that basically determines that that person has some physical limitation to taking the can to the curb, and that will be something that will be probably recertified every year or so as well. But we're working with the vendor to come up with a specific program to address that issue.
The other question I want to address is that I don't mind saying that I currently have GFL, and I've had GFL every year within the last couple of years. I've had to endure price increases. So I'm paying $75 a quarter just for residential pickup. I get no other service. So can you speak to the 1877? Would that be locked in for how many years? Because
I understand where you're coming from, and that has been one of the challenges. One of the opportunities by taking this approach is that we're going to be able to, as a group, lock in some numbers. The process that we're following does use a CPI index to adjust. However, the first 2 years are already included in that number that I gave you earlier. So for the first 2 years, it should be that number.
thank you very much. So the $18.77 a month works out to about $57 a quarter. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I rounded it off. All right, that's all I have for right now. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Sebastian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you speak a little bit, you mentioned the billing structure in passing, right? I don't know, for the public's benefit, can you expound on how we're trying to get the billing process and frequency of billing and all that?
Okay, that's a good question. I will say that we are in the process of negotiating how that billing will occur.
What are we hoping to get to?
We're hoping to get that to work through the tax commissioner's office. That's one of the services that they do offer. But there are other opportunities to do that as well.
Okay. So there are going to be other options to pay other than through the tax commission office?
That's correct.
And same holds for the add-on services, if people want these add-on services?
The add-on services actually will happen directly with the vendor. So in the image that you saw of the container, there's a QR code on the top. If they use their phone to click on that, it will direct them to information that pertains directly to the city and those additional services, they'll be able to contract with the vendor using that.
Okay. And just again, as a point of clarity, because I know this happened relatively recently in our city's history, where we had to pay as homeowners this little fee that we had to pay for the city. So just confirm again for the public that everything is included in this 1877 pricing, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Now, I want to make sure, though, pending all of the processes that we need to complete here, which includes the billing piece, that number may adjust up or down, but it should be pretty close to what that number is.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Williams, I saw your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to circle back to the point you made about 15% of households don't have service, which of course is contributing to the illegal dumping that we see happening around the city. Do we have an idea of how much that illegal dumping is costing the city when we have to go through the process of trying to either clean it up, or in the case of, for instance, the tree line at the Dollar Tree Plaza, where there was just, the whole tree line has got garbage dumped, and then we have to go to court to be able, we've got to go through the process and go to court. Do we know how much it's costing the city to deal with the illegal dumping that is occurring because people don't have trash service?
I don't have an exact number on that, but I can come up with a number, and I'd be happy to share that with council. But it is a pretty substantial number.
Yeah.
If you figure, we're having to send a crew out, travel time, and then actually cleaning the site up, it can get pretty significant.
Yeah, I would be interested, and not saying this to hold the process up in any way, but I would be interested in knowing like what the figure is, the cost to the city when we have to clean up the illegal dumping because people either don't have it or refuse to get it.
Will do.
Thank you for that, Councilman Williams. I think it might just be also important. We'll have to, as we're collecting that data, distinguish between. We know that everybody that's dumping in South Fulton are not South Fulton residents. People drive through here and do stuff. So if there's a way to distinguish that, Councilwoman Gomes.
Well, it's multifaceted. So, number one, they'll have a local call center that residents will be able to call. Again, the QR code that's on top of the container, that will also give them that contact information, and they can provide that information to the vendor directly through that function as well. And then on the vendor side, they have software that connects the cameras and things that they have on their trucks, as well as the GPS, and that will allow us to connect the dots, so to speak, to see if that house was missed or if there wasn't a can out, those kinds of things. So it should reduce the number of calls and things that we get on that, but also that same information will be able to run reports, as well as those requests that come in, like a missed service call, will be permanently documented for us to then review as well. And we can do that, we'll be able to do that real time. So. Well, they will have the opportunity to go to the vendor. You know, as you know, a lot of folks like to call us, and in those cases, we'll be happy to assist them in whatever they need to happen. So if that's a missed trip, then we'll make sure that the vendor is aware of that. Well, at this time, the actual RFP only deals with the residential side. Our solid waste ordinance still covers both residential and commercial. So I don't believe at this time we'll be addressing the commercial side, but they will still, I mean, in terms of making changes on that side. So they'll still be participating, we'll still be communicating with them relative to commercial services, but that's a little bit more complicated in order, and we'll still be monitoring that and getting feedback, and if that's something that council would like to consider at a later date, then that's what we'll do.
And my last question is enforcement. How will we make sure that all of these homes will have, I know we plan to possibly do exactly what, you know, any stuff to be added there. Like, how will we enforce this program?
In terms of everyone having a container? Okay. The way that we will bill this, everyone will receive an invoice in advance, but we'll provide containers for every household. How we collect that back from each household is another story, but the first objective is to make sure that every household has a container.
And what was that house number, the number of houses that
The number of houses,
you're planning to service?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
The number of houses that you're planning to service?
It's going to be around 40,000.
All right, thank you. We've gone through the first round. I have some questions before we go through the second round, but I want to see if Mayor Pro Tem Reeves, who joined us virtually, has any questions before I go.
Yes, Mayor, thank you so much. I asked that the clerk read them. My questions are in the chat.
Okay, we're going to have, yeah, your sound is going in and out. We're going to have Mr. Adams read those questions now. You have those?
Okay, his question is, what is the anticipated date of implementation? Example, the day the city starts delivering the Herbie Kirby's and start billing each household. And those who need an extra can, what would they be charged for an extra can?
Okay. The first question, it looks like it's going to be somewhere around in the second quarter of 2023, the start time. In terms of getting a second container, that will be one of the options that the vendor will work with the individual citizens with. So we won't, they'll be contracting directly with the vendor to have an additional container.
That's it? All right. All right, I've got a couple questions. First, I want to say thank you to Mr. Don Toms, our Assistant City Manager, who led this process, as well as the council people who have taken the lead on the ordinance. I believe that's Councilwoman Gums, Willis, Sebastian, and Reeves. So thank you for that. And some of my questions may cross over into the sanitation ordinance, or they just be more, maybe more of implementation. But starting with the call center, because since October 1, when we've now gone to this virtual 311 call center, we're actually getting more calls in the mayor's office because people are looking for a real person to answer the phone. So this will be run by WastePro and not the City of South Fulton, their call center?
That's correct.
All right. There will be real people locally, and what are the hours?
I believe the hours will be 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. They also have an answering service. And then folks will still have the option of calling, me, and we'll be happy to help them in any way that they need help.
All right, I'm going to ask, I don't know what is possible, because what has already been negotiated, but maybe if we could go 8 to 8, something just a little bit later, so that people who are getting home after work find out their trash hasn't been picked up or whatever, it's, yeah. This does not affect the transfer station. Are people still going to be able to take items to Merc Miles, or will WastePro run, who's going to run Merc Miles?
Well, we, the city, will still manage efforts at Merc Miles. We have a contractor who, manages that on our behalf, but we provide oversight, and that option will still be there. And most likely they'll be getting some enhancements there as well, in terms of recycling. So it should be good for everyone, and that option is still available to the rest of our citizens.
And I want to be clear, because that's my next question, is recycling. Recycling is not an option at all. That's not like an additional add-on service that someone can ask for.
We weren't able to find a cost-effective option for curbside recycling, which is where they pick it up at your home. So in lieu of that, we're looking at other opportunities to provide recycling. That's something that is important, and we want to make sure that our residents have that opportunity, and that it would work as a cost-effective measure on behalf of the city as well.
Would that, when you say we, would that be WastePro, or would that be the city?
In terms of the locations, or?
Who would pick it up?
Well, again,
Regardless, once we set the locations, yeah, is that part of their RFP, that they will pick it up at recycling centers that we have designated, or?
I would say that is to be determined. As of now, we have recycling options at Merc Miles, and that's actually picked up by another vendor. But as we look at other physical locations to provide these opportunities, we'll have to determine who will provide that service or support to make sure that material is taken to the appropriate places.
Okay. It would be my hope, however it's worked out, whoever does it, that we might have multiple recycling sites around the city, at least 5 or 6 at the very minimum. Just the places that we do it now, Creel Park and Merc Miles, the places that we have these spring cleanups or whatever, because I do know that there's some people that are interested in that. I would also encourage us to look at a partnership with Strategic Glass. I know that they're in the city of South Fulton. They are the largest glass recycler, I think, in the Southeast. So we're blessed to have them here. And I know that glass tends to be a challenge to be cost efficient for folks. But yeah, if there's something that we need to work out, I just want to make sure that, and that, I guess that brings me to the next question. And this is one of these, I don't know where this falls in, but I know that part of the challenge for many of the companies that were bidding or wanting to bid was the fact that we changed. They had to recertify every year, and that it was a big cost commitment to roll out a service for only 1 year, not knowing that they would have like a further commitment. So how many years did they bid for a specific number of years? Was that in the RFP, or?
The initial term, I want to say, is 4 years.
So they negotiated this price with the expectation that they would have this service for 4 years.
And it has some renewals on it as well, yes.
Okay. They're currently in the current setup we have, there's some discounts for disabled folks, veterans, seniors. Is any of that or is that like the one price, which is a great price, by the way? Is that negotiated for everybody?
At this time, we don't, there aren't going to be offers of any additional discounts, but as you allude, I think it's reasonable to say that most people, if not everyone who has service, is paying more than this number is right now.
All right, so there are, you said there are not though, but, so this
That's
is going
correct.
to be everyone's price. I want to talk about like the RFP in that process, because I never saw the RFP.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that the RFP will now be available for people to see, or that we can see it.
Well, let's see, it was definitely posted when we advertised it.
Okay.
I'm not sure of all the details because that's kind of out of my comfort zone, to be honest. But I'm sure that the entire process will be available to whatever extent that it can be.
All right, so these next questions, there'll be more like legal questions, because I haven't seen the RFP. Is there language in the RFP that says, Attorney Hyman, that this price that you're giving us, you are committed to for 4 years and cannot back out of?
I've been provided with a draft contract, but I've yet to finally go through all of it. So that will be part of the final document. I wasn't involved in the actual RFP process, but I'm pretty sure the quotes and the price, and I'll leave that up to the gentleman here as to what they believe they were negotiating for in that price structure. And that'll be borne out in the contract, but I'll let them speak to that part of the negotiation.
Well, I will say that as part of the RFP, we did note that there is an adjustment for inflation in there that's tied to the consumer price index, which, you know, obviously transportation costs vary, and they've varied here recently. So that does give the process a means to adjust, but it's within, it's a fixed amount that it can go up.
So, and you said that the amount that it will go up is tied to the consumer price index. So if the consumer price index adjusted for inflation is like 3%, they could see a 3% rise, but not more than that.
That's my understanding, yes.
Apparently, I am out of time, but I do have, I do have some more questions, so we'll come back to me. Huh? Yeah, apparently I really am. Huh? Was that for me? Yeah, that was for me. I'm out of time. Councilman Sebastian.
Thank you, man. I just wanted to have a couple other clarifying things. How would we work with the vendors, the current vendors, and the citizens to transition between their current private contract with a hauler and then engaging with the city at whatever point we pick up? Because it seems as if we're going to have to announce that pretty early, given that people pay per quarter. That's one question. I do have something else.
Would you like me to answer that?
Yeah, you could answer that, and I'll ask the other question.
Okay. All the details of that have not been worked out yet.
Okay.
But this is something that happens. It's not uncommon with the vendors that that we work with, and we work with everybody now. We'll continue to do that, and we'll figure it out. But that detail has to be part of this negotiation that we're discussing here.
Okay. My next question is about the electronic reporting of issues. I know we have that QR code, but I keep hearing us talk about a call center. Quite frankly, if I come home and my garbage is not picked up, I don't necessarily need to talk to somebody. If there's a QR code, I can scan and send a message to someone who gets it and take action. I'm good with that. So will we have something like that as an option?
Yes. So, you know, everybody's a little different. Everyone's a little more comfortable with different means. So there'll be multiple options of giving that feedback.
Because the bin is tied to my house, correct?
The bin is tied to your house.
Yeah, because I saw this weird thing on the internet that people were stealing other people's trash cans for whatever reason. So if my neighbor decided that he's gonna come and take my bin because he wants 2 bins, then it'll be known that that bin over there has my code on it.
So there is there's an individual number on that code, on that cart,
Right?
that can be scanned, and that is associated with a particular address.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Councilwoman Willis? I'm sorry, let me go to Mr.
Yes.
Thomas first.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up to Councilmember Sebastian's questions. One aspect of the program is a very large educational component for our residents. So during the transition time, another reason why, in addition to getting equipment in, we want to make sure that we have sufficient amount of time to roll out education. We have videos to upload. We want to make sure that the residents get the information both via electronic, but also we built in a component for an actual mail out to all our residents to ensure that there is sufficient information on the phone numbers to call, what happens if the carts are not delivered by the date that we say they're going to be delivered. Also, what to put in, there's also, I'm not sure everyone heard it, but there's also a bulk waste component to the program. So when you have items, whether it's furniture or something else, there will be a date provided monthly that residents curbside can put out the bulk waste in addition to their trash. So all that information will be rolled out in the educational piece, and we're going to hit that over, once council gives us the green light to move forward, we'll roll that out in addition to some town hall meetings. We are looking at putting those in each district. That way we can meet with the residents, take additional questions, and have additional pamphlets and flyers. So that's the other reason why we would like additional time. And then the other piece is we are going to meet with each of the current providers that did not put in a bid, or those that put in a bid that weren't selected, to work through the transition, because in fairness, we want to make sure that all the residents are served properly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did everyone, is that, Councilman Willis, you went already? Go ahead, knock it out.
I would like to ask that you all make sure you have all of the customer service concerns fleshed out before we go out to the community with town hall meetings. I would like to ask that before we go out for town hall meetings, all of the questions and the concerns that you may have from residents that you hear are addressed and fleshed out. I do agree that initially when we roll out the service that we need to have later hours. It does not need to be an 8 to 5 service. I also do believe that we need to have a way for people to call and report when their trash cans are not picked up, because we have a large senior community and we have a huge digital divide in our community. So we need to, I like the scan code, but we need to also have other mechanisms of communication. I think we should be very careful single-handedly picking a vendor. I would love to use a local vendor for recycling, but I would think that we would follow our procurement guidelines and policies and maybe put out an RFP so that we could get that service and provide recycling stations throughout the city. Recycling is very expensive, and hence why majority of the residents in the city don't recycle, to include me. For example, $75 a quarter I am paying, and that's just for residential pickup. So I do think that this $56 a quarter, which is inclusive of residential pickup and monthly yard debris and bulk waste, is a very, very good price for everyone across the board.
I want to say that we did not include yard debris in here.
Okay.
It's bulk waste.
It's
and
bulk waste once a month, and then residential.
Weekly, yes. Mm-hmm.
Weekly, okay. And then the yard debris is how much? If it's a la carte, how much?
It's one of the additional options that you have, and I don't have that number in front of me
I
here.
think it was it $4, Mr.? What was it, Mr. Toms?
No, ma'am. It's higher than that based on the services, but correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Burkette. If someone was to get an additional bin, they could put yard debris in that additional bin, couldn't they?
Yes, yes. So if you have a second bin, which is what Mr. Toms is referring to, you could put garbage in there or yard debris.
And that second bin is $10.74.
So I would ask that you have that price worked out and
Okay.
be able to communicate that to residents. So right now, the $56 is weekly residential pickup and monthly bulk. Okay. An optional yard debris. If you
Yeah,
pay
and
that, whatever that fee is. Okay. I also want for education of residents, miles is something that the city will have to pay to keep open, but it does not comply with the Georgia Constitution article that requires the city to provide sanitation service. Because if that was the case, we would have, made that option a long time ago. We have to provide sanitation or contract someone to provide sanitation on our behalf.
That's correct.
Okay. I think that is it. I will hope that you work with the council members on when these town halls will take place, because right now we have minimal participation this evening. That will give us an opportunity to reach out to our districts via robocalls, via mail, and via our newsletters to enhance participation.
We will make sure that there's a robust outreach. I agree with what you're saying. This is a big change, and we want to make sure that people understand what it is and how to participate. We want to be successful, and in order for that to happen, we need to make sure that people understand how to make this a success.
Lastly, I just want to say that this is an attempt to, number one, address that 10 to 15% of people who's not complying with our sanitation, to be able to hold our vendors more accountable. I know with the Falcon Forest community, they called me over one day, and it was a trash truck broken down in the middle of the neighborhood. And as I drove into the neighborhood, you could smell the trash truck. And that trash truck sat there for 2 days. And I don't even know if that person was registered to or authorized to pick up trash in this city. But it would give us more consistency, more quality of service, and then also make sure that we can hold the vendor more accountable. And WastePro is a local company in the city of South Fulton, correct?
That is correct. They're
Okay.
on Fulton Industrial.
All right, thank you. I yield.
All right. Thank you. First, I just want to respond to the issue about recycling. I didn't mean to suggest that Strategic Glass should be the recycler for the city. I just want to make that clear. I'm not suggesting that. I don't even know if they do anything other than glass. I do know that many people who recycle do not do glass. So we might need to combine 2 or 3 different people that just have the maximum number of products recycled as possible, because everything that we recycle stays out of a landfill that is probably south of I-20. But speaking to the procurement process, I want to go back to where we left off. Mr. Hyman, are you saying, you're saying that you're reviewing the contract now, that you haven't finished that. Did you not review the RFP?
What normally happens is that the user department will coordinate with the purchasing or procurement department, and if they have any particular questions, then we get involved. And in this RFP, they have the cost sheet that generally we allow the user department to develop to kind of get an idea as to what the scope of service. I wouldn't get involved in the aspects. So it's really, if there's a particular legal question that they need my office me to get involved with.
We don't have a procurement manager right now, do we, Mr. Toms?
We have someone acting in that capacity.
Okay. Who legally reviewed the RFP before it went out? Who was the legal reviewer for the RFP?
It was the prior procurement manager.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, I want to make sure that the things that we communicate, I still haven't seen it, so I would like to see the RFP, but I just want to make sure that the things that we asked for and the things that they promised, that there is actual, that these people are legally bound by these things, because I'm hearing that we're still negotiating some things, so I don't want to get a change order in 2022 where, like, you know, somehow because of something that was left out in the process.
Let me clarify. There's nothing to negotiate.
Okay.
I think some of the items that Mr. Burkette is mentioning is those additional, like recycling. If we do our recycling centers by zone or by district, those kind of items are not. But as far as the services to be provided, yes, we have a solid lock on those. And then based on the questions and responses, such as council is looking for a minimum of an 8 to 8 type of call center. So when they put in the bid, they put in the bid for 8 to 5. So if there's any tweaks and changes to account for the extra 3 hours per day, then that may come back with the final contract that will be presented to the entire council to approve. So those are the kind of tweaks and changes, but based on the bid received, no, sir, there is no more negotiation. That is what we are running off of. So it's anything that council may deem to be above and beyond.
What are the penalties if we get complaints from citizens about this service? Are there any financial penalties, fines, or?
We do require a performance bond, and in the ordinance there are several built-in conditions that you're looking for. Also, the advantage of having the contract via the city is it's one check. We're collecting the money and we're paying them. So you have leverage to make sure that everything is done in accordance to the contract. There's also, of course, legal contract language in there.
All right. What is the process for gated communities?
In terms of servicing?
Right.
They just need to be provided access, which is the current case today. Let me ask it a different way. If they're behind the gate and they own their own streets or whatever, like, are they still bound? Who is not bound? Maybe that's the best way to say it. Are there any residents in the city of South Fulton that are not bound to get service for any reason? So this program applies to any household that has a residential roll card, okay? So you have some mixed use communities or condos where they utilize commercial containers, you know, as opposed to using the individual carts. Any community that uses individual carts will be part of this process. But I just want to be clear, if you have individual carts and you're living in a townhouse community behind the gate, we are picking this company for you all as well. Yes. And is there any, I know that we had previously heard when we've been through this process before, people saying, "Oh, I take my trash to Merck Miles. Can I get an exemption if I bring my ticket?" Right? Can folks do that? No. Okay. So the last thing that I will say is, I do think it's going to be really important how we roll this out. And I know some of my colleagues have talked about town halls, but like everyone should get something in the mail, right? In addition to whatever kind of electronic, whatever communications. And I'm not sure,
By the time this rolls out, we will likely have 2 communications departments. I just want to be clear in some upcoming work session. I want to make sure that either in the November or December work session, that our city manager explains the process by which we will communicate this with all residents.
So, yeah, to answer your question, we've already budgeted to do at least 1 mailing as part of this. We want to reach as many people as possible, so we'll be using as many mediums as are available. That includes, meetings with, that we can piggyback on with council or yourself, Mayor, but any other community groups that are interested, we would like to know, and we would like to participate if we can.
Well, I think it goes without saying with this council, but we will need to see that mailer before it goes out and know that it's going out. We don't want what happened last time. So we just want to make sure the language is friendly and that everybody, knows that it's coming and that our staffs are all ready, because we'll get the calls.
Agreed.
I think that is it. Councilwoman Gumbs.
I just got a question from one of the seniors. So they want to know if Herbie Kirby's on the side of the building that they use, or have a lot of ways we have different sizes.
Mr. Burkette, I'll take that one. The initial cart will be the larger one, but there are options available, because we often get that with seniors, particularly in the townhomes and storing them. And most of the companies do offer a smaller size, so that is something that we should be able to accommodate.
Okay. And will the price still be the same?
The price will be the same.
Okay. I think we're at the public comment portion. We are going to, council and staff will be able to respond after that. We do want to hear your comments though now. So you want to sound that item, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're at item 4 on the printed agenda, which is public comment. Just like to remind the public that members of the general public wishing to make public comments at City of South Fulton council meetings must be residents of the City of South Fulton. Comments should be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. A bell will signal the end of each speaker's time. Public comments should be limited to only those items appearing on the city council meeting agenda. Each speaker must complete and submit a request to speak form in its entirety prior to beginning of the meeting. The person desiring to speak should rise, address the city council, and when recognized, state their name, address, and the item they are addressing, and the city council district if it's known. All remarks should be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any member. Speakers may not employ obscenities or threats of violence in their comments, and speakers may not use public comments to campaign for public office, either for themselves or on behalf of other candidates, for the purposes of limiting political influence. With those rules stated, we do have 5 public comment cards.
Let me ask you, before you do that, are there any virtual public comment cards?
There's 4 in person, 1 virtual.
Okay. Can we just call that person now and just let them know? Because sometimes it takes people time to get in the chat. So
yeah, he's online right now, actually.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start with that person then before, if the chat is working well. That way, if there's any problems, we can come back if it's not.
Okay. First speaker tonight will be Mr. Ron Booth, who resides on Norton Lane. Mr. Booth, if you're on, please unmute, and you will have 2 minutes to make your comment.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Hello, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and everyone attending. My name is Ron Booth, and I live in City Council District 2. I believe that this effort to have a city model for sanitation did not allow for true input from the citizens. It has been communicated that the city was seeking resident input through a solid waste survey conducted earlier this year. However, there was nowhere on that survey that provided an opportunity for residents to say, no, I don't want this, nor did it provide the opportunity for comments other than to ask you to state any additional services that you feel should be provided under solid waste collections. There were 13 items on the survey. However, A lot of people only need one of those 13 services, as Councilwoman Willis alluded to earlier. Also, that survey was biased because the questions were phrased or formatted in a way that led people to choose certain answers only in the affirmative. The total number of citizens that responded to that survey was only 626 out of a population of 108,000. That's almost 1/2 of 1% of the residents. So surely you did not rely on the results of that survey to decide about citywide sanitation services. If you really want the true opinions of your constituents, modify your survey and make it fair by including a question like, would you like the city to manage your city sanitation services? And provide us with an option to just say no. You could utilize those excellent newsletters that you put out each month to conduct a survey, where you will clearly hear what your constituents want. Besides, what's the hurry? This will have an impact on most, if not all, of the households in the city for a long time to come. So why not take the time to ensure that you're giving your constituents a voice in this matter? On your website, you have an organizational chart that shows the citizens of the City of South Fulton at the top. Therefore, I implore you, emphatically, please listen to the people that you work for. Thank you in advance.
Thank you, Mr. Booth. As I call your name, please approach the center microphone here and speak into the microphone with your name, address, and district. You may proceed in this order. Connie Robinson, Richard Snellings, Phyllis Hendricks, and Colonel Aiken.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and everyone that's present. My name is Connie Robinson, and I live on Palmview Court in District 2. These comments are in follow-up on behalf of our collaborative group of HOA directors and neighborhood community leaders across the City of South Fulton, representing more than 2,800 constituents. We did the work. Let me explain. Over the past year, we've been intentional in ensuring our city leaders hear the cries from our communities. They do not want one-source sanitation. We've written letters to city officials, spoken up at council meetings just like we're doing now, provided public comments, and had meetings with council and the mayor. We even assessed other nearby municipalities regarding their sanitation services and presented our findings to our city leaders. Thank you for the presentation that was presented, but we all see that it has a lot of holes. Unlike what you have provided to us, in our research, we took an unbiased approach and compared population sizes, square miles, and the type of sanitation services each city provided. What we learned and shared with you regarding the other nearby cities is that the population of cities with single source service was considerably smaller. Proximity within the city is not as widespread as the City of South Fulton. And the city's coverage area, the square miles, was not as large as the City of South Fulton. Actually, it was less than half the size. In comparison, one source is not a good fit for the City of South Fulton. Our documentation included comments from the community, pros and cons, sample RFP language, and also recommendations. We hope the information was earnestly considered because it was done to help our city officials make an informed decision on behalf of the people. We hope you're listening because we want our city to represent excellence. Let's focus on the issues the people are asking for, such as adding enforcement to the sanitation ordinance we have, cleaning up detention ponds, and more. Thank you. That's my time.
Hello, my name is Richard Snellings, 1980 Loch Lomond Trail Southwest. I'm in District 1. Now, after consideration of the presentation, I'm standing with the majority of the residents in opposition. Many months ago, a survey was pushed on us, but never asked the critical question, do we want this? We had a series of Zoom calls where residents overwhelmingly stated they did not want this, and guess what? That call cannot be found anywhere. It's almost as if it did not happen. In the Problems with No Solutions Facebook group, a resident expressed his discontent over this sanitation plan, and Councilwoman Helen Willis responded by vowing to lead the charge and vote in favor of this plan. Regardless of what everyone thinks about South Fulton Guy, her attitude her attitude towards him was just as bad as it is with her colleagues. Equally as troubling was that she making a decision prior to the RFP process concluding. No matter what, she is supporting it. This sort of behavior leads residents to wonder about kickbacks and questionable campaign donations. I do not want to diminish the hard work of the staff, but if we are being honest here, we don't want this, just like we didn't want those political flyers sponsored by the City Council that were placed in our mailboxes and ultimately ended up in the trash. We don't want it, never asked for it, and I intend to remind voters about this next year in November. If the city wants to take over something, take over getting us some speed bumps, take over the removal of the broken utility poles, take over getting us some sidewalks, take over getting our detention ponds cleaned out, or take over ordering our forensic audit that we've been asking for since the beginning of the year. Thank you, and dare to be honest. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Phyllis Hendricks. I live in District 5. I live in Magnolia Walk, which is on 3176 Broadleaf Avenue. And my comments are, I have some additional questions that I would like to ask. Are the 4-year contracts set up with the same price? And I think that question was answered. However, I would like to see how that's going to play out with the consumer price index and what is the cost increase each year. Secondly, I would also like to know who will manage the vendor to make sure that the contract is held. Is that part of the city's responsibility to make sure that vendor is maintaining what they have signed up for? And thirdly, I would like to know, will we get additional information on the implementation that will be forthcoming as we get closer to finalizing the process? And how would that information be communicated? And then my final question is, I would like to see a transition plan, how we are going to transition from our current vendor, and then making sure that all the people in my neighborhood, we can get our trash taken care of. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Anthony Aiken. I live in District 3 in Champions Park. Thanks for the opportunity to be here this evening to listen. I wanted to say thanks to Mr. Burkette for his presentation regarding this, but a couple of questions in my mind in regards to this particular vendor, the process that we're looking at. We indicated that there are over 100,000 residents within this community. About 15% are unaware of what's going on. I just want to make sure that we ensure that the entire population is involved with this process to make sure that it's seamless and there's a good transitional plan in place. One concern I have, though, in regards to tying of the vendor to our property taxes. What about some of those individuals who may have issues in regards to property taxes for whatever reason? Does that mean that there could be a lien placed on their home will be taken away from them, or what? What type protection do we have for the citizens of this particular community? And also, too, it's important for this pending change that the entire community is involved. That's very, very important. We talk about 100,000, the Blackest community and all that. That's great. But I want to make sure that everyone in every community is aware of what we're trying to do. Look at it tonight. This is not a very large crowd for major decisions that will be made for this community. So let's not be rash. Let's be, direct in our directions to make sure that individuals involved can say it's a good process. We must make sure it's a very good process for this community. And I want to make sure that each one of you on record, and I hope that this particular meeting is available for those that are not here tonight. It says some way that people will know about what's going on. Thank you very much.
We are streaming live. We are streaming live. I just wanted to say that. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, that completes the in-person comments. You did receive through email approximately about 5 or 6 written comments earlier today.
All right, before I go back to council, you all go ahead and get in the queue. I just want to respond to some of the things that were said. I know that I think all of us have done everything that, I just want to talk about the public engagement part for a second. I think all of us are doing everything that we can to get the word out about everything that is happening. I've been in elected office for 5 years now, and I've gotten to travel the country. I do not know a council anywhere that sends out more newsletters, that does, and maybe it's because like we had to do it before we even had a communications department. I've never seen a council as communicative as this one. And this civic engagement, it's a passion of mine. 626 responses may not seem like a lot, but I will tell you that's a lot in the history of our city, right? I ran for mayor, and less than 20% of the people came out to participate in that election. It was like less than 15% of people came out. So like, I just don't want people to think that we are not trying. We are definitely going to try harder. We're going to have paper newsletters. So people are going to start getting those more frequently. We finally got that in our budget. You've heard that the mailer is going to go out. But I don't, just because there's not a large, I insisted that this meeting be in person, and I sent out letters, I sent out text messages, so I hope people are watching live. We really are doing all that we can to ensure, but the decisions get made by the people that show up. So whatever happens, if people are telling you they didn't like it, then you need to make sure that they come to a council meeting. And that's what I'm going to say for now. Dr. Rao.
Thank you for your comments, Mayor. I totally agree. After sitting here for 5 years, he is absolutely right. 600 doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot of public input. And it's not just the city of South Fulton, that's across the nation. And I think what I've learned in this 5 years about how people communicate, they tend to speak up when they don't like something. I can tell you for District 1, they email a lot. They don't always come to the meetings, but it doesn't mean that they don't share their concerns. So I hear you. I've heard a lot about this. So I appreciate the fact that the sanitation program we're not rushing to roll it out because we want to make sure we get it right. And I think the second quarter gives us the time to do as best we can with education. And then I just want to address one thing, is that 15% is not that they don't know. They just chose not to select a provider for whatever reason, whether it be financial means or whatever. But it also has contributed to the ongoing complaints we receive about illegal dumping and litter. And like the mayor said, we can't say it's all residents, but when you're looking at 15% of a city that's 108,000, that's a significant number who are not getting regular trash pickup. And we know from our Public Works Department, they're picking up a lot of those bags that randomly get left in the woods and around our city. So this is also an effort to address some of those ongoing other concerns. And then I think one thing I want to speak to is I heard a lot about things people feel the city is not doing. Some of those things that get mentioned don't even fall under the purview of the city. You know, damaged poles, all those are utility providers. They don't fall under the purview of the city. And I do think we need to work on better government is complicated. We need to work on educating the public so they don't get frustrated because they're going through the wrong door. And I just think that's something we're going to have to continuously work at. But I appreciate everybody coming out, and we're going to continue to listen. And I'm going to ask that our assistant city manager and our solid waste coordinator, before we get to that point, whether it's a month or two out, where you've been able to fine-tune more of this, to bring a presentation back to council and the public so they can hear where we are in the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Willis.
If you live in District 3 and you get my newsletters, you hear from me quarterly via mail, you hear from me on social media at times, can you please raise your hand? Thank you. I appreciate every one of you all for coming out. and I most of all appreciate your support of me. I will be bringing a town hall to District 3, as I always do. I will represent you how you want me to represent you. I am leading the charge to do something about the inconsistent sanitation issues that you all have complained to me about. I am doing something and leading this charge because you all have complained to me about the inconsistent prices. I am leading the charge because you all have complained to me about your trash not being picked up at times. We know we have been mistreated by a vendor that has 70 to 60% of the business on this side of town. And because of the inconsistencies and how we have been treated, I am leading this charge. I will do a town hall meeting, and thank you. Councilmember Rao did clear that up. It's 10 to 15% of people who are not in compliance with the current sanitation policy. It's not 10 to 15 people who don't know. They know about it, but they're not in compliance. And so if you have any other suggestions on how we should go about fixing this problem, rolling this problem out, I'm open ears. Let me know, District 3 residents. I want to thank staff for working hard to bring this presentation forward. We do have some kinks that we need to work out. We do need to continue to engage with the public. For the individuals who are not in my district, I don't want to be dismissive of you. You did not meet with me. I have not seen that presentation. And so if you do have it, I've asked to see it. Please send it to me, and please reach out to me so that I can hear your suggestions as well, the people who live in your district, because they didn't meet. Oh, okay, well, you haven't met with me, but District 3 residents, I'm all ears. Just let me know, reach out to me, email me, and I will be having town halls concerning this issue. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Councilman Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to thank those who came to the mic and also those who commented online for your input. I know I have attended some meetings where this has been a topic of discussion already this year. And just let me say this, I just got here in January, but I immediately signed on to this program as one of the sponsors because we have to do something about keeping our city cleaner, saving our roads. Yes, I've gotten calls to come out to subdivisions where trucks have spilled what they call garbage juice on the street, and it's nasty and it's dirty, and it stays there for a long time, and at the end, who's responsible for cleaning this up? No one knows if it's garbage truck 1, 2, 3, or company truck 1, 2, 3, or 4 that spilled on the street. I live in a relatively small community, and I can tell you we have about 4 haulers that come through my small community every week. This is wear and tear on our roads, wear and tear on our bridges. I've heard all the complaints, and I know if it's one thing we do when we meet with staff, we take your complaints to staff. Say, this is what residents are saying, so whatever you do, you need to make sure you address those complaints and those concerns by our residents. And let me say this, in one meeting in which I was earlier this year, I finally asked a question. Do you really care what is the branding, which company collects your garbage, or do you care about it getting collected on time? You have the services that you need, and you're paying a fair price for that service. I mean, at the end of the day, to me, that's what it's all about. Getting good service, paying a good price, and to make sure if something goes wrong, you have an option of making a call or sending some communication and getting it corrected as soon as possible. So it's not that we're not listening, but there are lots of other factors that we're also taking into consideration, because the current situation, one person that I know pays $95, has the very same hauler that I do. He pays $95 right in District 4, and I use the same service and I pay $62. That just does not make any sense at all. One person that I know who have two buildings on the same property, they are actually paying two bills, as if they have two different households on this. So there's lots of variations and lots of things that we're going to be able to do as a city to streamline. And at the end of the day, it's a work in progress. So month one, things might be a little rocky, but it's that we get feedback and we can always go on and make tweaks as we go. So as we roll this out, I hope we're going to be patient, right, and give it a chance to work. But I think based on what we have done and what we've gone through with citizens, this will indeed be in the best interest of everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Sebastian. Mr. Toms and Mr. Burkette, would you mind coming back up to your mics? I just want to make sure that we answer the questions that were asked in the public comment, because that was really important. At least that was really important to me. That's why I wanted to be in the middle. So you did say the 4 years was locked in at the same price. There was a question.
Actually, I did not. Actually, I said there is a CPI.
With a CPI.
The first
right.
2 years.
For the first 2 years. Okay, so just for, okay. Y'all heard that? All right. Who will manage the vendor? Who's the person that will actually be doing that?
That's the responsibility of Public Works.
All right. And I guess just to follow up if people have called the customer service line and they don't feel like they're getting what they need, they can just contact, you are a City of South Fulton employee, they can contact you, or they can contact us and we'll contact you. All right. Do you want to say anything about the transition?
Right now, I mean, we need to develop that transition plan. That's where we need to spend the majority of our time to make sure this is as seamless as possible. It will have a very robust education and outreach component to it. Again, we want to set our citizens up for success, and we want to make sure that they understand what this new system, how it operates, and what their role is in that process.
Everyone will be receiving a new can. So even if I have WastePro already, I'm still going to get my new South Fulton can with the QR code.
You will receive a new can. That's correct.
I think that those were all of the questions that I heard. I will ask this follow-up question. I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time I'm hearing the name. I think this is the first time many people on council are hearing the name. This is the first time that the other vendors are hearing the name, or did an email go out to them today, or how did that work?
Well, this is a recommendation to council.
Okay.
So this is
the first time that the other vendors are hearing that this is the recommendation from the city. Okay.
From staff, yes.
Go ahead.
So the other vendors weren't notified. They're running, like you said, today, right now, at this point, and we still have to look at that. So
Yes.
my concern, well, actually, I don't have a concern. I want to thank everybody for coming out. You can see that this is important. We listen to everyone online, and this actually is more than we than what we intended. So, I mean, we appreciate you coming out and then actually coming up to the microphone and sharing your thoughts. And also, now presentations, I want Ms. Robinson to know
Again, that's part of what they're doing. They're developing those relationships. I can confirm one right now.
So I know that it is, probably a contract that everybody popping up, but again, we have to find a way to get it done. We started off in 2018, I believe it was, and that was a fiasco. And I think you all almost, how many times were we there? That was awful. But this project, I do want to thank, staff and again, my colleagues, because again, we have really been listening to you all and we've been thoughtful, and we're not rushing. So again, this probably won't roll out until what, spring of next year? No, what's the next?
Second quarter.
So we still have time to make tweaks and some additional changes. But I need you all to make sure that you have your neighbors and let them know to come out. We can mail all day long, we can send newsletters all day long, but if we're not, we don't want to waste our money either, because again, that's what's happening. The entire city, like how many people come out for it. So we still have to be thoughtful about that. But again, thank you all for coming out tonight, and we appreciate the work that the staff has done. It's been a lot,
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I think it's important for us to engage with citizens, so we want to make a good decision on their behalf, and so it's important for us to get as much feedback as possible.
Councilwoman Willis.
Thank you. And Ms. Robinson, I just want you to understand that we did consider, that was all of our desire at first, to try to have more than one vendor with this process, but it just didn't work out. The numbers didn't work out. What you did say is that we do have a relatively small population for residential trash service compared to some of the larger counties. We only have about 40,000 residential trash. Isn't that correct, Mr. Burkette? It was 35,000 when we first came on, but now it's what, up to after the census?
It's somewhere around 40,000, and that's folks that would be having the roll carts.
So, right, and so in this grand scheme of things, in the sanitation world, that's not a lot. And the more vendors you have involved, the more they want to make a profit. And so in order to make it affordable for the entire city, the numbers didn't work out for one vendor. So that's why they have 14 trash cans that will be servicing the whole city, and there may be other vendors that will be subcontracting with this one vendor. The other thing is that Councilmember Gumbs is correct. We've been at this since 2018, and that's how we got to the free market, because we listened to the community, and the community wanted to have the ability to pick their own sanitation service provider. But what did that do? That led us to have inconsistent prices, inconsistent service, inconsistent pickups. It got us here. And, a lot of people are paying $90 a quarter. I pay $75 a quarter and don't get the quality service I feel like, I deserve. And so, we listen to the residents. We try to provide the free market. And now what I get is constant emails and calls about complaints. We're getting flooded with complaints. So we have to do something. We can't make a popular decision. We have to make a decision that's in the best interest for all. And we will be intentional about rolling this out. We will continue to get feedback. And but I think that when I go to sleep at night, I'm going to sleep at night thinking that I'm making the best decision in the best interest of the residents who elected me to sit in the seat. So thank you, and let's continue to do everything we can to engage our residents. And I do agree we need to have a transition plan. We need to make sure we extend them customer service hours. We need to continue to have town halls so we can reach more people. We're not going to be able to reach everybody because that's just reality. People are not as engaged, but at least reach those who want to be engaged. Thank you.
I'm going to say I do also remember 2018. I do have a slightly different memory. We actually did go through a process and we were about to announce the vendor, but because there were alleged issues with the RFP process, we abandoned the vendor that we selected, and that's how we got to this. That's how we got to this market process, which has not yielded the results. We've had lots of complaints about it, from the number, everything that Councilman Willis said, from the numbers of trucks to two neighbors having the same service but receiving different pricing. That has been an issue. I'm still a little concerned about this RFP process, which has been opaque to me, but I am cautiously optimistic that next year every South Fulton resident will have a can with our logo on it, which will be, I think, one of the most unifying things that we have done. I have a mayor's advisory board of citizens from all 7 districts. Not all of them are fans, and those are hard meetings to sit through sometimes. But one of the concerns that I heard in those meetings, in our most recent meeting, was this concern that if we had 2 different vendors, that the Old National residents or the Cedar Grove residents would somehow get the short end of the stick, right? And that there would be issues of equity in customer service and service. So I actually am glad that we are going to have one vendor everyone's going to have the same price and the same experience. And with that, I do want to close with some of these comments from our Mayor Pro Tem. Would you go ahead and read those, Councilman? I mean, I'm being distracted by conversation, by chatter up here. But would you go ahead and read those closing comments from our Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes,
Mr. Adams.
Mayor Pro Tem Reeves offers the following comments: to my colleagues and to staff, thank you for your continued hard work and sacrifice and dedication to bringing a holistic approach to this sanitation ordinance. This is the best and most appropriate approach in achieving the objective of the constituents' constant complaints of trash, litter, illegal dumping. Keep this city clean is a common denominator we all share. One city, one service, one price. Thank you, and we appreciate all the public's comments tonight.
I want to thank I want to thank everybody for coming out, and I just want to end with those final words: one city, one service, one price. Early voting is happening. No matter who you vote for, please go vote. Make your voices heard. The elections at the bottom of the ballot are the most important. So we do have a city council race. Those of you all who live in District 7, make sure that you go out and vote. We don't want to hear that this was decided by 626 people and then people are mad about it later. So please go out and vote. Thank you all so much. I'm going to, before we go, I know there's a whole bunch of events happening. I'm going to take a minute if council wants to, we'll go District 1 through 7. If anybody has any events coming up they want to share before Tuesday.
My monthly Cascade cleanup, meet me there at 10 o'clock. We meet at the Cascade Driving Range, and that's it. I did want to give an update. Fastenal has postponed its 5K. I mentioned that because it's been in my newsletter, but they're pushing the date out, so I just wanted to announce that.
Thank you for everybody that came out, but especially my District 3 residents. I'm happy to see your faces. We are having a citywide trunk or treat here at Walker Mall Park is citywide. If you have a community that want to come out and participate and give candy to the kids, please contact Park and Recreation. That is on Saturday, November 29th, from 3 to 6. 3 to 5 is the trunk or treat, and 5 to 6 will be the contest. And then on November 12th, we will be putting out a flyer. There is a citywide Thanksgiving giveaway. We do it every year. Only 1,000 City of South Fulton residents will have an opportunity to register and drive through and pick up the produce. We will and the Thanksgiving's meat that we're giving away. It will be 3 blocks that you can register, so that information will be coming out this week for you to go, and it is citywide. It's for everyone in the City of South Fulton. There has been 1,041 individuals who registered at this, who voted at this location, and I think that is commendable. Continue to get out to vote, encourage people to get out to vote. Go ahead and vote and get it out the way. So you won't have to stand in long lines on election day. That is the most important civic duty that you can exercise, and that is your vote. Thank you for coming out. Councilmember Guns want me to let you know that the senior summit is actually at 11 a.m. Thank you. And watch out for my newsletter. You'll be getting one this, if you're not getting my newsletter, see me, but I do send one out bi-weekly, so you'll be getting one for the council meeting that's coming up on Tuesday. Thank you.
Councilman Sebastian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to echo the mayor's encouragement for folks to go out and secure your vote. And also, along those lines, I want to remind the people of District 4, especially those in the Cedar Grove area, that we have a new precinct. That's the Cedar Grove Church of Christ at 9100 Clark Road. I've been seeing good feedback already. Hope, voters are saying the staff there is really, really nice, and they're glad to have a voting location that close in the heart of District 4. On October 29th, we'll be hosting at Wilkerson Mill Park the Atlanta Sling Fest. That's those slingshot vehicles and the spiders. We're going to have the Atlanta Sling Fest here at Wilkerson Mill Park. And that's going to be a huge, that's shaping up to be a huge event for our city. The other thing, just rolling over into November a little bit, on Veterans Day at Fire Station 8, we're going to be honoring some veterans and having a fish fry for them as well, and we're inviting veterans from all across the city who want to come out and let us love on you for your day. And that's all I have for now, ma'am. Thank you.
All right. Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Reeves wants everyone to know that on November the 5th, there will be a Veterans Chili Cook-Off at Burkette Field, which is at Burkette Park on Burkette Road off of Old National. And the categories are meat, vegetarian, and vegan. If you're interested in entering, or if you just want more information about events in District 6, please visit, District 5, sorry, flashback. Visit District 5 News, district5news.org. Councilwoman Williams.
Thank you. The District 6 Halloween Festival will be Saturday in Creel Park from 1 to 4. Please do come out. It's particularly geared towards the kids. We have ordered quite a lot of stuff for this Halloween festival, so please do come and have popcorn and cotton candy, and there's pumpkin decorating, and I believe we're planning to show the movie Hocus Pocus and candy and all the stuff that kids would enjoy in a Halloween activity. Again, that is at Creel Park on Saturday from 1 to 4.
All right. a couple quick announcements. You've heard about voting at the Southwest Art Center opening this Friday, October 21st, tomorrow at 7 p.m. is Irvin Wheeler's new African Millennium exhibit. It's an incredible exhibit. There's going to be a walkthrough with the artist next month, and there's also going to be a Halloween party on, I think it's the 29th, but it is with Dance Atlanta. They're asking people to dress up. It's going to be a great Halloween event there. That's for the grown folks, but families are welcome as well. And I'm going to try this legislative preview thing out on Sunday. So you can find out these events and come to this legislative preview I'll be having on Zoom. Just text the word Fulton, Fulton, to 33777. You can sign up for the newsletter and mobile alerts. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, please call the vote.
Before calling the vote, I just wanted to correct, Mayor Pro Tem Reed said the correct website is district5mewe.org. So District 5.
District 5, me. I thought that was a misprint. I'm sorry. I'm reading off the screen.
Yeah.
Thank you. District 5, District the number 5, mewe.org. District 5, mewe.org. Okay.
Right, it's a roll call vote to adjourn. Councilmember Rao. Councilmember Gums. Councilmember Willis. Councilmember Sebastian.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Reeves. And Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone.
We adjourned at 7:47 p.m.